Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video about a potential, or at this point fairly likelihood, for a heat wave or a relative warm-up. So it hasn't been awfully cold this past week, the past 7 days. We've had a very cold first start of the first half, sorry. But then we've gotten a bit warmer, and now it looks as if it's gonna get even warmer. So let's take a quick look at the GFS model to start things off. Also, if you like weather-related content, videos, anything to do with long-range forecasting, snowstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, I will be doing this all on this channel. So if you could subscribe, that would be awesome. If you don't want to, perfectly fine, up to you. Just a quick little reminder if you want to. So let's rewind this. Right now, many across the eastern United States are under a wrath of a pretty large system. You can see right here, 1002 millibars. It's not really strong by itself, but it has a lot of moisture to work with. It's mid-May, and a lot of the Gulf of Mexico area is open for business, which means it could tap into a lot of moisture. The rain that falls can be very heavy and torrential, and that really is the main threat. The severe weather with this event isn't too strong like it would be, like it has been in the past with some events. This one is a little bit quieter. Now the thing is that even if you aren't under the rain right now, you either have been, you are, or you will be. So you can see this moves into the East Coast, and we have a hurricane. I'm actually not sure if it's a hurricane yet. I'm pretty sure it's a tropical storm at this point, or tropical depression. But if this storm kind of all hurricanes basically spin counterclockwise, kind of like low pressures do. It's a low pressure, a hurricane is, it has a special name, but all it is basically a super strong low pressure system, and all winds are spinning like this. So it has a lot of force with it, and with that, it kind of keeps the second storm that is occurring right now across the United States at bay from the East Coast. And it prolongs its stay across the eastern U.S. Indiana, Ohio Valley, Kentucky, West Virginia, all those states. The Mid-Atlantic also gets lots of rain. And you can see it's Friday, and the same system is still, dwindling across parts of Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, all those states. And it's maybe not going to be super heavy rain, but there's probably going to be flare-ups with thunderstorms, especially if the daytime heating gets going across the eastern U.S., the Mid-Atlantic. And then that goes through. So the point about that, bringing up this storm into this video, is basically showing to you that there's some below average temperatures right now due to the storm. And you can see that the main warm air is kind of to the north, actually locked up in Canada, because it's been pretty warm, except this cool air gets brought down by the big thunderheads that tap into the very cold air, which is very high in the atmosphere, 20 to 30,000 feet above, and that brings it down into the air. That's why, or to the surface. That's why when you have a thunderstorm, that's why it always cools off afterwards. It's not going to warm up after a thunderstorm, 30 minutes or an hour later. So if we were to look at this, you can see below average temperatures Wednesday, Thursday. This is May 20th, May 21st. So this week. And it's not really, Arctic air by any means. What we saw last 2 weeks ago on Friday, two Fridays ago, and Saturday, it was like a spring polar vortex. But you can see it's definitely, it's there, and it's kind of hindering from the warmest temperatures. However, if we keep looking, keep pushing this forecast, we see that by Friday, we start seeing less and less of this cooler air, and then by Saturday, we see a big warm up. I mean, the west is relatively chilly, and that's usually how it goes. It's either the west is warm, the east is cold, or the west is warm and the east is cold. And the reason for that is, well, that's basically due to a big trough or a big jet stream that always lifts up to the north. Say in this case it's actually the opposite. It's the jet stream is riding down to the south, and it's getting brought back up to the north. And what this allows is a lot of the warm air to come in and infiltrate into these parts of the eastern U.S. And the west kind of gets that Arctic air invasion, and it gets kind of blocked off by that jet stream, so it just kind of stays there for quite a while, or until the jet stream breaks. Now there have been patterns where just the whole U.S. is warm, and that's generally when the jet stream is either just very far to the north, just a straight line. But with that, we usually don't see massive heat waves, as the temperature anomalies aren't as great as with some temperature swings like this. Under a pattern like this, we could get insane heat going at any time of the year. Really, even in December. If you recall, there was a heat wave this year in December across the eastern U.S., and this was the exact same setup. It was cold across the west, but it was warm across the east, and it got ridiculously warm. There was 50s and 60s on some days all the way up here in Chicago, which usually December averages around 35, 34 degrees. I know this was around Christmas time, so not early December. And you can see that this warmth, this heat continues. Now, again, it's not July, so it's not going to be a heat wave, quote unquote, with hundreds or 90s. There's going to be 80s and 70s though. And you know, if you live in the South, 70 may not seem like much, but for many across the United States, especially the north, they've been seeing cold conditions. So it's jumping from 30s, 40s, all the way to a 70 or an 80. That's a huge warm up and will be noticeable. So if we continue putting this out, you can see this cold air right here is not really marked with any, you know, big atmospheric changes. It's just basically a cooler system that gets on shore and brings in a little bit of cooler air. But the warmth just really prevails. And look at parts of southern Canada. It just really gets warm. And parts of southern Canada may be warmer than parts of the mid-Atlantic states, which will be below average at this point. If you're to look at the temperature shaded, they're pretty significant. You can see 67 by, I think that's Labrador and Newfoundland area. That's the province. And you can see that, say, North Carolina 66, South Carolina, sorry, 66. So it's crazy how the weather works, but it's not always one way or another. Where it's colder in the north and warmer in the south, that's usually not the case. So it's always either flipped around or it's just not what people expect. And notice that this just hangs around and it doesn't really go away. And while this may look like if it's half cold, half warm, usually the models tend to overplay the cold air during the summer months, and May being one of them at that point. This is late May, almost June, and you can see that the warmth just really prevails, especially if you notice during the nighttime. During the nighttime, it seems like the cooler air disappears, and during the day, it kind of more infiltrates. You can see there could be a little blast of cooler air right here. That's more of a phase blocking change, so that could be a little bit more significant. That's not brought by a singular storm, and however, it's not really significant. You can see it kind of sticks around for a few days, but it gets quickly dwindled out. So let's look at some of these temperatures. The 2-meter temperature shaded, so that basically gives us a reading of what the temperature will be in Fahrenheit at 2 meters, which is where the official temperature is taken note of. And let's look at this, and that's the height that the temperature is taken at. So right now, there's a big storm. Again, you can see cooler temperatures. This is definitely below average, especially across the Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois area. This sticks on for quite a while, again, especially with that hurricane kind of blocking its exit. So that will definitely keep things on the cool side. You're going to notice that around it gets pretty warm. We get F70s and even possibly some 80s into Canada, while it's 50s and 40s across Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. So by Thursday, things start breaking apart. The system starts dwindling, and its grasp on the U.S. weakens. And notice there's chilly air across the west, but the east really just starts warming up. You could see Friday we were seeing 60s and 50s and 70s across the Great Lakes. Then we start seeing a very nice warm across the plains, and just very warm conditions across the south, 80s and 90s, typical, if not a little bit above average. And then Florida could be just extremely above average. You can see almost 97 degrees, possibly some hundreds right there. If you were to look at the anomalies, it's all orange. That means it's above average. So let's go, sorry about that. I wanted to click on a 2-meter temperature shaded, which we were looking at. Let's continue playing this through. Sunday, another very warm day across much of the eastern U.S. Notice the west is cooler. There's even some spots across the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone where it won't be even getting above freezing during the day. So that's a drastic change, especially since what they've been seeing, say, a couple of weeks ago, where it was very, very warm. So notice the warmth continues, and even if there's a so-called cold front right here, there's warm air behind it because it's just May, I mean, they're not going to get 32 degrees behind a cold front in the middle of June. That would take insane everything would have to line up perfectly, and there would have to be some sort of really impressive feature in the atmosphere to do so. Right now, we're not seeing any of that. It seems above average, and that's why I'm just going to say heat wave / warm up is definitely on its way. Notice here, it's a cool off, and that's again with that little colder blast that I showed you earlier. But again, it's not too significant. Gets it down into the 60s, 50s. Noticeable, but not life changing. You're not going to get your crops damaged by this, and then it just bounces right back to normal. So very good news for those that want the warm air. A little bit bad news for the south, as it will just be getting a little bit intolerable at times, especially with that, when the temperatures reach into the hundreds. You can see that the south is mainly in the red for that. A little bit maybe cooler, especially if there's some sort of system coming through. But it generally remains in the orange colors. And the south is warm. It's not a cold place. Unfortunately, if you want to live in a cold place, you got to move up to the north. Notice that the west is cold for a week or so, but then after that, it warms up as well. You see California, Nevada, Utah really warmed up. Even the northwest gets in some of the warmth. So it really looks as if a warm pattern's taken over all across the United States. And to be honest with you, you have nothing wrong with that. I love the warmth when it's supposed to be there. I hate the warmth in the winter. It just really throws things off. But when it's cold in the summer, that's equally as bad. It's necessary because you're not going to get, say the average for Chicago. I just say Chicago all the time because that's what I know. That's where I live. I know the averages. Let's say July average is 85, 84, 83. I think it's 83. For the whole month. You're not going to get every single day 83. You're going to get a couple of 90s. You're going to get a couple of 70s, and it's going to average out to around 85. That's just, that's always how it works. And if the average changes is when, it's predominantly more cold than warm, or when it's more above the average versus below, and that's when the average bumps up. That usually takes several years. As you can see, this is from 1981 to 2010 anomaly, or averages. So that's like, what, 30? Yeah, it's 30 years of average. So in the next 30 years, there may be a little bit more, a different deviation. So we'll have to see for that. But that's going to be a while. So thank you guys so much for watching. Consider liking the video. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.